I noticed something strange about my husband sleeping next to me. He was like a dead fish, unresponsive to my intimate advances. I thought it was because we'd been married for a while, and he had lost his passion and excitement for me. That was until I overheard my husband talking to his friend. My wife sleeps like a log every night. You could put a corpse next to her and she wouldn't even notice. So did my husband find a corpse to act as his body double? Zero, I jolted awake from my sleep, faintly hearing slight noises coming from the living room. It sounded like someone moaning and panting. In the pitch darkness, I couldn't help but feel creeped out. I instinctively reached out to nudge my husband beside me. Jack, I think there's someone outside. I pushed him a few times, but he didn't respond, seemingly fast asleep. He must have been exhausted from the day, I thought. In the end, I decided not to wake him up. I slowly got up, grabbing a vase from the nightstand for self-defense. Could it be a burglar? I tiptoed out of the bedroom, opening the door quietly. The living room was pitch black, and I couldn't see anything. After some consideration, I mustered up the courage to feel my way to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. Feeling a bit braver, I found the light switch by the door and turned on all the lights. The living room was suddenly bright. I looked around but didn't find anything unusual. I checked the other bedrooms too, but there were no signs of intrusion, and none of our valuables were missing. He stood in the living room bewildered. Had I imagined it all? The next morning, I woke up and went to the living room. Jack was already sitting at the dining table, smiling at me. Morning. Babe, come have some breakfast. My husband, Jack, was quite the catch fatal, handsome and charming. We had a whirlwind romance, getting married after knowing each other for just a month. Despite the rushed nature of our relationship, our marriage had been good. He supported me as I built my career from nothing to becoming the CEO of a company. I became the envy of all the women in our social circle. After my business success, Jack quit his job and became a stay-home husband. The only regret was that after 6 years of marriage, we still didn't have a child to show for our love. We thought there might be something wrong with our bodies, but medical checkups showed we were both healthy. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be yet. I sat down after washing up and took a bite of the warm sandwich. Remembering last night's incident, I couldn't help but ask him about it. Jack rolled his eyes and said irritably, "Babe, were you dreaming?" I wanted to say more, but he had already stood up and said, "All right, honey, you need to get to work. Hurry up and eat. I am going back for a nap." For some reason, I've been feeling really tired lately. Jack stretched and walked past me to the bedroom. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I felt like there was a faint, strange smell coming from him. I didn't think much of it. After a quick breakfast, I headed to the office. The next night, I don't know how long I had been asleep when I was once again startled awake. The panting outside was even louder this time. I got up to check, but again, nothing was missing. My scalp tingled with fear. If it wasn't a burglar, could our house be haunted? I am a skeptic. But at that moment, the only explanation I could think of, besides a ghost, was, well, I couldn't think of anything else. But for the next 2 weeks, everything seemed to return to normal. The eerie sounds never came back. I thought the incident was over, but little did I know, it was just the beginning. One night, I had a vivid dream. In it, Jack and I were passionately making love, but just as things were getting intense, I suddenly woke up. The lingering desire from the dream left my body feeling like it was on fire. I couldn't help but snuggle closer to Jack's body, softly calling out to him, "Honey, are you asleep?" Just like before, I called out several times, but Jack didn't respond. It felt like lying next to a corpse, but I was already consumed by an endless desire, and I wasn't about to let him off the hook. I went from softly calling his name to shaking him vigorously. He mumbled sleepily, "Go to sleep." Of course, I wasn't having it. I pressed myself against him again, whispering in his ear, "Babe, it has been so long since we've been intimate. How about we go wild tonight?" As I spoke, my hands started to wander. He didn't refuse me, so I became bolder in my actions. However, I vaguely felt that the skin I was touching was cold, unlike Jack's usual warm, soft skin. Moreover, the scent on his body seemed different from before, which gave me a strange sense of novelty. But just as my hand was about to reach its peak, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Number, not now. I need to take a shower first." Before I could react, he had already scrambled out of bed, wrapped himself in the blanket, and stumbled out of the room in the dark. His series of actions left me bewildered. But since he said he wanted to shower, I could only wait silently, hoping he would be quick. However, after waiting in the room for a long time, I was starting to doze off, so I got up intending to go and hurry him along. Suddenly, I heard voices talking in the living room. To my surprise, besides Jack, there was another man in the living room. It was Jack's friend, Brian. I had met him a few times before. Brian was just as attractive as Jack, if not more so. Today, he was wearing only a thin t-shirt on his upper body. which perfectly outlined his impressive physique. He was the type of handsome guy that made people fantasize after just one glance. For some reason, Brian's face looked troubled, as if he was hiding fear. "When did you get here?" I asked. Jack immediately put his arm around Brian's shoulders and said to me, "He just arrived, honey. There has been some noise in Brian's neighborhood lately, keeping him up at night. He came over to stay with us for the night." I nodded upon hearing this. I was about to turn and go back to the bedroom when I suddenly noticed something odd. "Hey, Jack, weren't you taking a shower? Why are you still wearing pants?" Jack had said he was going to shower, but now he was wearing dress pants instead of pajamas or a bathrobe. He even had dress shoes on his feet, Jack replied irritably when he heard my question. "Well, Brian called me just now and asked me to go pick him up. I couldn't exactly go down in just a towel, could I?" I didn't think much of it and turned to go back to the bedroom. The heated feeling from earlier had dissipated, and it was getting late. I had a team meeting at the office tomorrow morning, so in the end, I fell asleep without continuing what we had started with Jack. However, little did I know that Brian's appearance at our house tonight was not as simple as Jack had made it out to be. A week later, I had finished my work at the office and had nothing else to do, so I fell asleep in my office. I slept deeply as I had been under a lot of stress lately. Being night time since I had rested for a long time during the day, I wasn't sleeping as heavily. I woke up groggily and found that Jack wasn't in bed. I initially thought he was in the bathroom and didn't think much of it, preparing to go back to sleep. But suddenly I heard whispering voices from outside the door. Could it be Jack on the phone with someone? A feeling of unease suddenly welled up in my heart. It was so late. Jack wasn't in the room, and he was secretly making a call in the living room. Had our marriage hit a rough patch? I hurried to the door, pressing myself against it as if I wanted to meld into it. Jack's voice came from outside. "Brian, please help me out here. Hasn't your company not paid salaries for a few months now? If you help me, I'll add another 1,000. No, 2,000. How about that?" So he was talking to Brian. The heart that had risen to my throat relaxed a bit. But suddenly, Brian's voice rang out. It wasn't the sound of a phone call. He was in the living room with my husband. No, I can't agree to this. Even if I am short on money, we almost got caught by your wife last time." I was stunned. "What had they almost been caught doing?" Jack continued. "Don't worry, that was an accident. I promise it won't happen again like last time. Look, if you agree to help me, I'll not only give you an extra 2,000, but I'll also have my wife arrange a position for you at her company. The salary will definitely be higher than at your previous company." Brian seemed to fall silent. I listened, completely confused. What extra money? What did Jack want Brian to agree to? And how was I involved in this? What on earth was going on? After a long while, under Jack's urging, Brian seemed to waver, but he said, "Sai, I really don't understand why you are doing this. It is clear that your wife loves you very much. Why don't you two just have a baby? Maybe that will change your mind." My heart, which had just settled down, rose up again. Although Jack's voice wasn't loud, I could still hear a hint of indifference in his words. "I don't want to have children. I still want to play around for a few more years. I can't live without those young, fresh bodies out there." Hearing this, I almost collapsed to the ground. So the so-called stay-at-home husband was actually going out to party and fool around behind my back every day. What he said about not being able to live without it was just an excuse. Disbelief, pain, and anger instantly rushed to my head. I wanted to burst out and slap him hard, demanding to know why he would do this. But just then, he spoke again, pleading with Brian. "Come on, Brian. My wife has been under a lot of stress lately. She has been sleeping like a log every night. You could put a corpse next to her and she wouldn't even notice." A flash of lightning struck in my mind, and I came up with an unbelievable guess.